All right, there we go. So we're half on the road and halfway out the door today as Adam is traveling to a cool learning experience later this week. So we're recording off schedule, hard in the car background, the Wawa gas station and such here. But hey, that's final expense from the field. So the information we give, we're still out there personally producing and know what we're talking about. Adam is door knocking in a Cubs outfit today, I think, and we're going to see how many sales he gets with a hometown jersey on.
Adam, I'm probably going to change before I head out. I mean, I'll be working on the south side, and I don't know if they'll take a liking to my Cubs jersey. Maybe some people, but no, I don't think that'd be a good idea to go out there around the Sox Park in my Cubs jersey running leads, but it might be all right.
I was really tempted right before the end of the World Series to at least wear one of the Phillies hats and door knock and see what would happen, but I just wasn't that confident to pull it off.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're working kind of like the Philly area. I mean, it's not really like a rivalry like where you live. I mean, you got Baltimore and Philly kind of, like you said, about even distance, but I mean, it's not really a rivalry. I mean, when's the last time the Orioles were any good?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the same as having two teams in the same town.
Oh, yeah. And it's really crazy. I mean, where I live south of Chicago. And I mean, it's a big mix. It's a big mix. Where I used to live was maybe a little bit closer to Chicago. There were more Sox fans, but like where I'm at, it's pretty rural. It's a pretty mix. There's I'd say probably half and half Cubs and Sox.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know when the Cubs were in the World Series, it kind of felt like everybody was rooting for them.
Yeah.
Regardless. I mean, yeah, maybe there were some diehard Sox fans that just their two favorite teams are the Sox and whoever's playing the Cubs. But outside of that, I mean, I think that, a lot of people were kind of going, we're kind of rooting for the Cubs, especially after the longest drought in sports history. So
I got one for you. If someone can comment in the video the name of the team that used to be the other baseball team in Philadelphia, you guys will win a free coaching session from either one of us if you'd like. One on one, or maybe the both of us together if we can schedule it. But if you can comment below the sports team, the baseball team that was in Philadelphia with the Phillies, we'll win some private coaching sessions from us as well. Adam, do you know who I was referring to without giving it away?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do. Actually, my dad, he had a client that used to pitch for that team. And then he ended up being a pitching coach for the Yankees back in the early 90s.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I actually have an autographed baseball signed by the whole Yankees team from, I don't know when it was, somewhere in the early 90s. Nice. So, and I got it from that guy. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. My dad came home one day with this autographed baseball it was pretty awesome. I mean, I've always really been into collecting and, baseball has always been my thing. I mean, yeah, I like other sports too, but, baseball is always, like we say, just kind of becomes a part of your life where it's every day in the summer. So,
do you have any other?
But yeah, I've always been a huge collector. What's that?
Do you have any other autograph memorabilia?
Tons of stuff. I have, I got a Cal Ripken Jr. 2131 commemorative ball when he broke the streak of Lou Gehrig signed. I have a Ted Williams autographed baseball. I met Ernie Banks. I have a ball signed by him. I have tons of stuff.
Nice.
I have let's see. Right behind my desk, I have a bat here that's signed. But let's see if I can get in the camera here. This is a bat signed by Mark Grace. I don't know if you can see it in there. And it says, most hits in the 90s, 4 gold gloves, World Series champion, taking care of business.
Nice.
So, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Grace was actually probably like my favorite player growing up. I mean, I watched tons of Cubs games, of course. And Grace, I loved, starting with like the 89 Cubs, that was like the one year they were really, really good with just a whole bunch of young players. It was Grace's second season. Don Zimmer was the manager. And they were pretty clutch, and they made it to the playoffs. They lost to the Giants in the NLCS, but just watching Grace every day, he was a clutch hitter. I mean, again, most hits in the 90s. Honestly, I mean, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I kind of match his stats up to some other people, and I kind of feel like he's right up there with others. Harold Baines, he was elected into the Hall of Fame a few years ago. If you look at his stats compared to Grace's, they're real similar. Harold Baines has more home runs, but he also had a whole lot more at bats, and he had a lot more strikeouts. So, if you compare like the two, I remember when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I was like, well, if he can get in, there's no reason Gray shouldn't. So we'll see. I don't know. He was on the ballot one time, and he hasn't been on the ballot since.
Was Harold Baines a not like that main election, like wherever the writers vote, but he's like the next committee voted him in, right?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think he was elected by like the first time around. It was like the Veterans Committee or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
so
you can get in the Hall of Fame a couple different ways, which is kind of interesting. Have you ever been to the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I haven't. I'd love to. I mean, that would be pretty awesome to see all the stuff that's in there. Game worn memorabilia. From different records and things like that. I mean, that would be someday. I need to definitely get out there.
So I went probably, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago. Early on, final expense career, had enough money for a good vacation kind of thing. And the kids were just too young. They're like running through it like it's the damn children's museum. I'm like, no, we have to look.
Yeah.
But older kids now, I think it'd be cool for them to see and it'd be cool to show them. So definitely something I want to do again.
Yeah, I know. At least I know there's like a baseball tournament out there every year. So I'm hoping maybe my 3-year-old, I'm hoping he gets into baseball, and we get him into traveling leagues, and hopefully would get to the point where his team would go play in a tournament out there. I think that'd be pretty cool. At that point, he'd probably be old enough where he'd kind of get it and understand it, and it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere, isn't it?
Coopersburg, New York is not really near a whole lot of anything.
Yeah.
But hey, that's part of the fun of it, is that you're all basically going there for that.
Yep. Who are some of your favorite players growing up?
Well, I don't really remember a ton about when I'm like the growing up kind of players, but like the last really good Phillies team that I could speak of in authority with today's topic, I can remember the Ryan Howards, the Cliff Lees, the Roy Halladay's, the Chase Utleys of the last good Phillies team. I can remember a little bit of like the Kirby Pucketts as a kid, but talking about what you want to talk about today, I instantly go back to like that last generation of good Phillies players.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that Phillies team. I think I had a Cliff Lee jersey. I thought he was good left-handed pitcher. And I just liked their jerseys. I one of those. It was like that cream. It might be their Sunday jersey, that cream colored jersey with like the royal blue, like the Cubs colors. So I remember that team. They were a good team. That was the last time they made the playoffs, wasn't it? Before this past year.
Yeah. They last time they made the playoffs, I think, was 11 or 10. 2011, I think, and then not until this year again. And you wanted to talk a little bit this morning about the parallel between good baseball players we remember in our younger years and kind of how that parlays into the business that we do together.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think about people again like Mark Grace. I mean, most hits in the 90s. I mean, that didn't happen by accident. I mean, talk about the kind of work you got to put in on the side to be that consistent. He averaged a career average over 300. Most hits in the 90s. I think he had the most doubles in the 90s. And yeah, like I said, and he was clutch. You could always, it always seemed like if in a game when they needed someone up there is going to get a hit and bring a run in, he usually seemed to be the guy that you could you would know that if he was up to bat, that there was a good chance that good things would happen. So, yeah, I think, and again, kind of relating that to our everyday business. Again, we talk about consistency, staying out there all day, every day, not taking long breaks. Again, it's like anything else. You slow down and maybe you get back out there, and if you're not consistent, if you go out one day and then you don't go out again for a week or something, you're going to forget what you're doing every day. I just think that the more you do it, the better you get. Again, I hadn't really been out in the field consistently for about a good 2 to 3 years. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, it was the first time I'd been out for a full day in a while. And it was kind of like I'm relearning things, but every single day has just gotten better and better, and it becomes more and more fluent. It's more repetitive, but again, it's just consistency. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
With the Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, that generation, or that quality of pitcher, they went out there planning to pitch the entire game. They weren't a 5 and dive. They weren't once through the order or twice through the order. They were legitimately going out there looking to pitch the entire 9, maybe 10 innings if necessary. And I think that's also one of those things that parlays perfectly into what we do. You got a lot of agents out there that are 5 and dive. It's not even 5 p.m. It's 3:30 and they're done for the day. And they started at 10:30. There's people that are out there from Monday through Wednesday, and then they're out for the second time through the order. There's people that aren't putting the time in or even giving themselves the expectation that I'm going to be working the full day. I'm going to be out there until at least 6:30 tonight, probably 7 before I leave the field. And that's my expectation. That's the expectation at home. That's what becomes the norm. And that's what prevents poor days of performance.
Well, yeah, like we talked about last week, you just don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So yeah, get out of it as much as you can. I remember being out in the field late where an agent would call me and it would be 7:30 at night. I'm still out running leads and he's at home. And how was your day? Well, I had an appointment at 3:00 and they blew me off. They weren't home. And I felt bad after that. So I just went home. And it's like, well, that's why you're failing. Yeah. What could have happened if you would have stayed out a few hours? You could have turned your day around. How many days have you been out in the field and just gotten shut down all day? And if you would have went home at 3:00, you would have went home with nothing. There's so many days that you don't. Yesterday, it was my last stop. I wrote some pretty good premiums. So you just never know. You just got to stick with it. Again, consistency is key. Another guy that I really liked growing up was Ken Griffey Jr. I would say Mark Grace, Ken Griffey Jr., and Cal Ripken Jr. were my 3 favorite players. And, Griffey, it was just that swing. He had like the most polished swing that, I don't think anybody could even like replicate it. Just the smoothest swing. It's kind of the same thing, clutch guy, home run hitter, great defensively. All these guys, they really had a lot in common when it came to work ethic and preparation, going out there and working hard. Griffey, he had some injuries, I think maybe that slowed him down a little bit, especially with playing the outfield and having to run. And, you mess up your knees and that, it can be pretty difficult as you get older. And then Ripken, he broke in a record that most people thought would never even come close to anybody surpassing. Lou Gehrig's consecutive streak, 21-31. Again, we talk about consistency in the business and staying out late. And this guy played in, 2,632 consecutive games before he finally said, I'm going to take a day off. You think that there might have been some days that he was a little sore and like he didn't feel great and maybe would have felt good to maybe take the day off. Heck, you ever had a day where maybe you have a cold? Maybe your sinuses are a little messed up. And I don't stay home. You ever stay? I don't know. I can't remember the last time I stayed home because I didn't feel great.
I've been in appointments before where the lady is like, "Would you like a decongestant?" I'm like, "That'd be an idea, ma'am. I appreciate that." You have a tissues with you as well. Like it just, if I've committed to the day and I can physically rise from bed and put an outfit on, then I'm going into the field. Like if this is a Tuesday, if it's a Wednesday, if it's on my schedule, and I can stand upright, we're going to work.
Yeah.
And if something goes wrong with the kids, I mean, we're parents, we get it. Sometimes you got to make a left turn in life, but it's when you have that level of consistency, like Cal Ripken, it's the days where you really you don't want to go out that make the biggest difference. It's the days where you shouldn't go out, the days where you got in an argument out the front door, the days where you forgot something but you still kept going. Those really define how far you're going to make it in your career, because most people that never get above here or fail out after a year, those are the days that shut them down. I've seen it time and time again. It's the people that can't prioritize an emergency from just a day-to-day occurrence, who can't put something to the back burner or prioritize tasks. It's like you're going to work, and if this was a real job, it is a real job, but if this was a job, you wouldn't have an excuse to be home today. Like, don't forget where you are and the freedom that you have, but the responsibilities that come with it.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. Even like, I mean, you have weather out there like I do here as well. Days when it's snowing out. We have, we have 6 inches of snow on the ground or a foot of snow on the ground. Well, I mean, go rent an SUV if you have a car that isn't dependable. You're going to catch a lot of people at home, like you said. I mean, any other job, because it's snowing, are you going to be able to call into work and be like, I just can't make it in today? They're going to be like, get your butt here.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Because we have a job where we're independent and we can be flexible. So we just decide that we can take the day off because it's snowing.
Yeah. Winter 2016, I had a Dodge Avenger. It is not an SUV. It's not a pickup truck. It's not a Jeep. It is not fit for urban winter travel. And I had a set of leads in South Philadelphia. All my leads were close together. I found a parking space. I beached my car and I walked probably several hours of door knocking because it was all close enough. And do I need to do that now? Absolutely, I don't. But it's something you especially have to do early on in your career. And I wrote over 3,000 of AP that day on a very low contract at the time, mind you. But it's that money that keeps you going from week to week when somebody else stayed home, didn't go out, and probably didn't make it in the business.
Well, yeah. And again, I mean, heck, I mean, cold days, same thing. I mean, below zero. I mean, put a warmer coat on. Again, if your car's not dependable, go rent one that is. I've done it. Not now, but in the past, same thing. You know, when I was early 20s, I mean, I drove around this Chrysler and it just wasn't dependable, over 200,000 miles on it. I felt like I had 2 car payments. I mean, one car payment was the actual car payment. The other one was getting it fixed every month. So on days like that, I would take the car to a car rental place. I'd spend $40 to rent a more dependable car so I could go to work. I mean, am I going to make more money sitting around doing nothing all day or actually going out and running leads? And you're going to catch a lot of people on snowy days, on cold days, on rainy days. People are going to be home because they don't want to go out. And you make that effort. And I mean, heck, you walk up to the door, you knock on it. I mean, heck, you can even like start to wipe your shoes off on the rug outside. And half the time they're just going to let you in. They feel bad for you that you're out there freezing your butt off.
I think what we're describing is coming through in the clutch. It's when the days that you really need it the most. It's like Bryce Harper in the playoffs this year. He's always an MVP. He's always a quality player. He's always good at what he does. But it's coming through in the most clutch moments that take you from the wild card to the NLDS to the NLCS to clutch plays, even though they didn't win the World Series. In the World Series, it's coming through in the clutch that defines if an agent's going to make it long term, remain average, or fail out of the business altogether.
Yeah, and do you want to win the day or not? I mean, are you going to win the day if you don't go out? Probably highly unlikely. Like I said, I mean, there's too many people, I think, that have excuses, too many excuses of why they can't be working, and they need more reasons why they should be out working.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's if they can find an excuse, that's the reason it didn't work out today. Stop finding excuses and find solutions to your problem. Stop finding reasons why it didn't work. I asked a recruit yesterday, and I meant this in a respectful sense. They're talking to me about why it didn't work out at their prior organization. And I said, why didn't it work? What part did you own in that? And it just an open, honest conversation about why it didn't work out for them, because so many people aren't willing to admit it's probably your fault. You know, most problems in business.
Yeah. I mean, again, accountability is just so important. I think you got to lose the ego, and you got to realize that on days that maybe you didn't make any sales. Yeah. I mean, you got to blame yourself. What could you have done better? What could you have changed so next time you can, you can make a sale? Kind of like if you're, a batter who's in a slump. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to evaluate what they're doing. A lot of times, these scouts, they kind of figure out how to pitch to the players, and the players have to make adjustments. So what kind of adjustments do you have to make? So tomorrow when you go out, you're going to win the day and you're not going to get shut down all day.
I'll close with this so that we can both get out into the field today, and then
sounds good.
Throw sense in on it. When Joe Girardi fired as the manager of the Phillies in the summer of last season, he had a scheduled interview spot he did on Power Alley. It's a Sirius XM MLB Network show I listen to religiously. And a lot of the managers have pre-scheduled interviews all the time. And Girardi was scheduled for his weekly interview right after he was fired that day. And what would most managers do that weren't even managers anymore? They'd be gone. They'd go home. They'd pack their stuff. They'd be done. Their assistant would email the network. They wouldn't do their spot. Joe Girardi, being a class act, even though he wasn't the best manager last year, still did his interview segment with Power Alley on MLB Network moments after walking out of the office and being fired. And you know what he did? He didn't blame the players. He didn't blame the ownership. He didn't blame the weather. He didn't blame his wife. He didn't blame his kids. He took ownership of the fact that it really didn't work out the way he had expected. And he did a classy interview. And the host did a classy interview in that situation as well. Because how many hosts would take the guy to grass for losing his job? And they just had a classy adult discussion that kind of centered around self-accountability and the fact that sometimes it doesn't work out, but it isn't usually somebody else's fault.
Well, too, I think by kind of taking that route and holding himself accountable, I mean, he will gain a lot of respect around the league from other players, even maybe from his team that he just had to, he got fired, he lost his job. But I think he'll gain respect from taking accountability and not playing the blame game. I think players appreciate that. He's not putting blame on them, not putting blame on anything but himself. And I think that even in our business, you hold yourself accountable. I think your team will appreciate you maybe even a little bit more.
Yep. So I think the moral of the story today is be consistent, a Cal Ripken of the business, rise to the occasion like Mark Grace with the most hits in the 90s, step up to the plate in clutch moments like Bryce Harper, own accountability when you get fired from your job because the world's not over just because one day didn't work out, and be active. I think it's so easy this time of year to find an excuse. There's 100 around you right now, the weather, the holidays, the kids, the family, the concerts. Remain consistent. Good habits are hard to create and easy to break, and bad habits are so easy to create and hard to break. So that's my input on today's episode.
Sounds good. Well, thanks a lot. It was a good conversation. Hope you have a great day out in the field, Chris. I'm going to go put on some work clothes and go out and do the same. And let's both go out and win the day.
Outstanding. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know who the other Phillies team was when there were two teams in Philadelphia, and you'll win a coaching session with one of us or maybe even the both of us prior to an episode. Thanks for watching.